My stepmom tried to steal my dead dad inheritance and leave me with nothing. So here's the backstory. When my dad passed away 5 years ago, his wife, my stepmom, ended up keeping pretty much everything. At that time, I somewhat naively assumed that things had been sorted out either through a will or perhaps joint ownership. We were not extremely close, but our relationship was decent enough, and I didn't have any substantial reason to doubt her intentions or actions. However, it always sat a little uneasily with me that she never offered any part of my dad's estate to me. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, a revelation comes out of the blue. My stepmom casually mentions that my dad actually never had a will, contradicting my previous assumptions. Moreover, she hadn't filed for probate, and the house, bought by my dad before they were married, was still solely in his name. Now she suddenly needs my help. She wants me to sign away my rights to the house so she can sell it. She tossed me an offer of $10,000 and sent over some lawyer-drafted paperwork, implying that if we went to court over the estate, she would likely win all the equity in the house. But she's pitching it as her being generous by giving me the $10K to keep things simple. The attached legal statute, however, told a different story. It seemed to suggest that her claims might not hold up in court as strongly as she implied. After consulting with a few probate lawyers, I confirmed that because my dad's name is the only one on the deed, I'm legally entitled to half of the house. After all expenses and paying off the remaining mortgage, my half would be valued at around $80,000. Confronted with this information, I questioned my stepmom about why I was never informed about the house and the absence of a will. Her story suddenly shifted. She claimed that after their marriage, they had refinanced the house, but due to a bank error, her name was never added to the deed. They apparently tried to refinance again in 2015, yet the issue wasn't corrected. She only recently realized that she wasn't on the deed, she said. If she were on the deed legally, I wouldn't be entitled to anything. But since she isn't, I technically own half. Now I'm wrestling with whether or not it would be unreasonable for me to insist on my rightful half. The lack of transparency from her end and the manipulative tone of the lawyer's letter have eroded my trust in her. Moreover, I can't help feeling resentful that she seems to think she's entitled to everything my dad owned, even though I'm his biological son and have legal rights to his estate. This feeling is further compounded by the fact that she received a substantial amount of life insurance money and is financially very well off. She's even been building a luxurious oceanfront property where she plans to retire soon. At 53, she's not financially dependent or struggling by any means. On the other hand, I know that my anger and feelings of being sidelined might be affecting my judgment. Maybe insisting on my half could come off as greedy or stir up unnecessary family drama. But then again, it's not just about the money. It's about fairness, about recognizing my dad's wishes, even though he didn't leave a will, and about ensuring that I'm not taken advantage of. I've been trying to navigate this situation with as much grace as possible, but it's challenging. The idea of potentially going to court over this, of having to fight legally with someone my dad loved, is exhausting and disheartening. Yet, I feel it's important to stand up for my rights and for what's legally and ethically correct. As I ponder over this decision, I'm also preparing for all possible outcomes. Whether this leads to a legal battle or a negotiated settlement, I need to be ready. I'm gathering all necessary documents, continuing my consultations with legal experts, and mentally bracing myself for the next steps. It's a lot to process, and I'm grateful for the support of friends and a few understanding family members as I work through these complex issues. It's not just a legal battle. It's a journey to find some semblance of justice in the wake of my father's passing. Now for the top comments before the update. Not the a-hole. I find it hard to believe the bank made the same mistake twice. No mistake adding spouse to the deed is not required to refinance. Wife would only have been required to sign that if she had knowledge of and gave consent for the home being used as collateral. Curious as to where OP is, though, as typically an absence of a will, the spouse is the sole inheritor, regardless if lawyer says he's entitled to half the value, not the a-hole. Get a lawyer and get what's yours, not the a-hole. It sounds like she and maybe her lawyer are trying to do something shady. I wouldn't spend $30K plus in lawyer's fees to try to get all of what you're owed. But I would absolutely start the negotiation process by asking for your half and be willing to take a little less than that, not the a-hole. It sounds like she was fully aware she wasn't on it, and she knew she wasn't going to get all of the money to sell. So she is trying to give you hush and go away money so she can cash in $150K only, shorting herself $10K to get you to walk away with a mild threat that if this goes to court, I'll win. So just do what I want and walk away. Yeah, don't let her get away with shafting you. You're an heir to your father's assets and estate as next of kin, and it's very likely she kept even more money from you than just the house. And you should definitely take her to court. Update 1. After our last big confrontation where I found out the house was still in my dad's name, I got to thinking, what else might be hidden? So I decided to bring in a financial investigator to take a deep dive into all the documents and bank stuff my dad left behind. Boy, did we find some hidden gems. Turns out, my stepmom had been pretty busy after my dad passed away. The investigator discovered several accounts and investment portfolios that were quietly transferred to her name. These weren't just any accounts. They were big ones with lots of money involved, set up long before she and my dad were even a thing. Armed with this new info, I knew I had to talk to her again. I wasn't looking forward to it, but I needed some answers. We met up, and right off the bat, the air was thick with tension. Here's how that conversation went down. Me. So I found out about the investment accounts. Why didn't you tell me about these? Stepmom. Clearly caught off guard. Oh, those were just part of our retirement stuff. Your dad wanted me to handle them. Me. But these accounts were set up way before you guys were married. And now they're all in your name? Doesn't that seem a bit off to you? Stepmom. I was just doing what I thought was best. I didn't think you'd need to be involved in all that. Me. It's not about needing to be involved. It's about being fair and honest. You've basically taken control of everything without even a heads up to me. It feels like you're cutting me out of my own dad's legacy. Stepmom. I didn't mean to upset you. I was just trying to keep things simple. Me. Simple for who? For you? This isn't just about money or property, it's about trust. And right now, I'm having a really hard time trusting you. The conversation was intense. By the end, we were both pretty drained. It was clear that things were about to get even more complicated. After that intense meetup, I touched base with my lawyer to figure out what these discoveries meant legally. Turns out, my stepmom might have crossed some legal lines by shifting all these assets into her name without proper rights or discussions. This could be a big deal legally speaking, like court case big. As you can imagine, gearing up for a potential legal battle over your family's stuff is rough. It's not just about the money or the house anymore. It's about feeling like I'm fighting to keep a part of my dad with me, which is super tough. I'm now in full prep mode, getting all my documents in order, talking to witnesses, and mentally gearing up for what might be a full-on court drama. It's the last thing I wanted, but I've got to stand up for what's right, not just for me, but for my dad's memory too. Through all of this, the support from you guys and some of my family who understand what's going on has been my anchor. It's reminded me that even in the craziest storms, you've got to have people in your corner. I promise to keep you updated as things unfold. Thanks for sticking with me and sending all the good vibes. Here's hoping for some fairness and peace at the end of all this drama. Update 2. Hey everyone, I'm back with another update, and things have only gotten more intense. If you thought the last update was wild, hold on to your hats, because this one takes the cake. Just when I thought I had a handle on things, my stepmom pulled another fast one. Here's what's been going down. After our last heated conversation, I was hopeful that maybe, just maybe, my stepmom would start being more straightforward. For a few weeks, things were quiet. Too quiet. I should have known better because that calm was just the setup for her next move. One day, out of the blue, I get this thick envelope in the mail. It's from her lawyer. I open it up, and inside are a bunch of documents. The letter explains that my stepmom is now offering me $20,000, double her original offer, to sign away my rights to the house and all other assets. The kicker? The letter is worded to make it seem like this is my only option, and if I don't take it, I could end up with nothing. They even threw in some legal jargon to scare me off. I felt my blood boil. This was a clear attempt to manipulate me into thinking I had no other choice but to accept her offer. It was sneaky and underhanded, but I wasn't going to fall for it. I immediately called my lawyer to discuss the letter. We decided it was time to confront her and her legal team directly. We set up a meeting with her lawyer present. The tension in the room was palpable when we all sat down. Me. So I got your letter. Care to explain why you think this offer is fair? Stepmom's lawyer. We believe it's a generous offer given the circumstances. It simplifies things for everyone involved. Me. Simplifies things for who? For her? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like an attempt to bully me out of what's rightfully mine. Stepmom. I'm just trying to be fair and avoid a long, drawn-out legal battle. This offer is more than reasonable. My lawyer. Given the assets involved and the legal standing my client has, this offer is far from reasonable. It's an attempt to manipulate him into giving up his rightful inheritance. Stepmom's lawyer. If we go to court, there's no guarantee your client will win. This offer avoids that uncertainty. Me. I see what you're trying to do. But here's the thing. I've done my homework. I know my rights, and I'm not backing down. The meeting ended with no agreement. It was clear my stepmom was trying to scare me into submission, but I wasn't having it. After the meeting, I felt a mix of anger and determination. I reached out to more family members, explaining the full situation and asking for their support. Surprisingly, several of them, who had initially been on the fence, started to see things from my perspective. It was a small victory, but it felt good to have some family backing me up. I'm now more determined than ever to see this through. My lawyer and I are preparing for what might be a long court battle. We're gathering all the evidence, including the history of the investment accounts and any correspondence that shows my stepmom's manipulation. This whole situation has been incredibly stressful, but I've been leaning on my friends and some supportive family members to get through it. My best friend Jake has been a rock. He's been over at my place almost every day, helping me sort through documents and offering moral support. Sometimes we take breaks and just hang out, trying to take my mind off all the legal stuff for a while. My cousin Sarah, who's been supportive from the start, has also been amazing. She's been helping me gather old family documents and even found some old letters from my dad that might help my case. Knowing that I have people in my corner makes a huge difference. I've been working closely with my lawyer, who's been fantastic. We're making sure we have all the evidence we need to show the court exactly what's been happening. We've got copies of all the bank transfers, documents showing the history of the investment accounts, and even some emails where my stepmom's intentions aren't as pure as she'd like everyone to believe. It's a lot of work, and it's tiring, but I know it's the right thing to do. I need to stand up for my dad's memory and make sure I'm not getting taken advantage of. I won't lie, there are days when this all feels overwhelming. The idea of going to court and having to fight for what's rightfully mine is exhausting. But every time I think about giving in, I remember my dad and how hard he worked for everything he had. He wouldn't want me to back down. I'm trying to stay positive and take things one step at a time. I know this battle isn't over yet, but I'm ready for whatever comes next. I'm going to fight for what's right, and I have faith that the truth will come out in the end. Thank you all for sticking with me through this. Your support and advice have been incredible, and knowing I have people rooting for me means the world. I'll keep you updated as things progress. Here's to hoping for justice and a fair resolution. Update 3. I'm back with another update on the ongoing drama with my stepmom and my dad's estate. After our last heated conversation and the intense meeting with her lawyers, things went quiet for a bit. I was gearing up for a long court battle, gathering all the evidence, and preparing for what felt like an inevitable showdown. But then, out of nowhere, I got another letter from my stepmom's lawyer. This new letter had a very different tone. My stepmom was now offering me half of the house, but no other money or assets. This was a huge change from her previous stance where she barely offered me anything. It felt like a step in the right direction, but it also left me with a lot of questions. I started wondering why she had suddenly changed her mind. Was she scared she might lose in court? Was there something else going on? To get some clarity, I decided to reach out to some family members and friends to see if they had any insights. I called up my cousin Sarah, who has been incredibly supportive throughout this whole mess. She was just as surprised as I was by the new offer. Here's a bit of our conversation. Sarah: it sounds like she's getting scared. Maybe she knows she doesn't have a strong case. Me: yeah, but why offer just half the house and not the other assets? There's got to be more to it. Sarah: it could be a tactic to get you to settle quickly without going to court. She might be worried about what else could come out during a trial. That conversation got me thinking. If my stepmom was genuinely afraid of going to court, maybe there was more she didn't want to reveal. I decided to talk to some other family members to see if they had any insights. I reached out to a few relatives who hadn't been directly involved but knew about the situation. My Aunt Linda, who's always been pretty neutral, had an interesting perspective. Aunt Linda: I heard from a mutual friend that your stepmom is really stressed about the possibility of going to court. She's worried about her reputation and what people might think if all this becomes public. Me: that makes sense. But should I settle for just half the house? What about the other money and assets? Aunt Linda: you have to do what's best for you. If you think you can get more, maybe it's worth pushing for a fairer settlement. But if it's more about closure and moving on, maybe accepting half the house is a good compromise. This new information left me with a lot to think about. On one hand, settling for half the house would avoid a lengthy and stressful court battle. On the other hand, I felt like I deserved more, especially considering the other assets and the way my stepmom had handled things so far. I decided to discuss it further with my lawyer. We went over the potential outcomes and what a court battle might look like. Me, do you think we should take this offer, or should we push for more? My lawyer, it depends on what your priorities are. If you want to avoid court and get closure quickly, this is a good offer. But if you feel strongly about getting what you believe you're entitled to, we can definitely push for more. It's clear she doesn't want to go to court, which gives us leverage. After weighing all the options, I decided to respond to the offer, but with conditions. I proposed that in addition to half the house, I should also receive a portion of the other assets. It was a compromise that I felt was fair and might also appeal to my stepmom's desire to avoid court. We sent the counteroffer to her lawyer and waited for a response. It didn't take long. A few days later, we got a reply saying they were willing to negotiate further. This felt like a small victory and a step towards a resolution. Throughout this ordeal, I've been leaning heavily on my friends and supportive family members. My best friend Jake has been amazing. He's been over at my place almost every day, helping me sort through documents and offering moral support. Sometimes we take breaks and just hang out, trying to take my mind off all the legal stuff for a while. My cousin Sarah, who's been supportive from the start, has also been incredible. She's been helping me gather old family documents and even found some old letters from my dad that might help my case. Knowing that I have people in my corner makes a huge difference. I won't lie, there are days when this all feels overwhelming. The idea of going to court and having to fight for what's rightfully mine is exhausting. But every time I think about giving in, I remember my dad and how hard he worked for everything he had. He wouldn't want me to back down. I'm trying to stay positive and take things one step at a time. I know this battle isn't over yet, but I'm ready for whatever comes next. I'm going to fight for what's right, and I have faith that the truth will come out in the end. Thank you all for sticking with me through this. Your support and advice have been incredible, and knowing I have people rooting for me means the world. I'll keep you updated as things progress. Here's to hoping for justice and a fair resolution. Update 4. Hey everyone, I'm back with a huge update, and trust me, it's a big one. After all the back and forth, the manipulation attempts, and the tense negotiations, it finally came down to a court showdown. And guess what? I won! But it wasn't easy. There was a lot of drama along the way. Here's everything that happened. The court date arrives. The day of the court hearing finally arrived. I was a bundle of nerves, but I felt prepared. My lawyer and I had spent countless hours preparing our case, gathering evidence, and strategizing. I knew we had a strong case, but the thought of facing my stepmom in court was still daunting. As soon as we walked into the courtroom, I could feel the tension. My stepmom was there with her lawyer, looking confident and composed, but I noticed a few signs of stress. Her hands were shaking slightly, and she kept glancing around nervously. The judge called us to order, and the proceedings began. My lawyer laid out our case clearly and confidently. We presented all the evidence we had gathered, the investment accounts, the emails, the discrepancies in her stories. It felt good to finally have everything out in the open. When it was my turn to testify, I took a deep breath and walked up to the stand. I explained everything, how I had been kept in the dark about my dad's assets, the manipulation attempts, and the emotional toll it had taken on me. I could see the judge listening intently, and that gave me some hope. Then came the cross-examination. My stepmom's lawyer tried to discredit me, suggesting I was only after money and painting me as greedy, but I stood my ground. I explained that this was about fairness and honoring my dad's legacy, not just about the money. It was tough, but I felt like I held my own. When it was my stepmom's turn to testify, things took a dramatic turn. She started off calmly, but as she went on, her story started to unravel. My lawyer asked her pointed questions, highlighting the inconsistencies in her statements. She got flustered and defensive, and at one point, she even broke down in tears. After what felt like an eternity, the judge finally made a decision. He ruled in my favor, stating that I was entitled to half the house and a portion of the other assets. The relief was overwhelming. I had won. All the hard work, the stress, the emotional turmoil, it had all been worth it. After the ruling, my stepmom left the courtroom in a hurry, clearly upset. I felt a mix of emotions, relief, vindication, and a bit of sadness that it had come to this. But mostly, I felt a sense of justice. My dad's legacy was being honored, and I had stood up for what was right. The support from my family and friends has been incredible. My cousin Sarah and my best friend Jake were both there in court with me, cheering me on and providing moral support. After the verdict, we went out to celebrate. It was a small victory party, but it felt huge to me. As I look back on everything that's happened, it's clear that this journey has been incredibly tough, but also incredibly important. It's taught me a lot about standing up for myself, about the importance of honesty and fairness, and about the lengths some people will go to when they feel threatened or scared. This whole ordeal has been a powerful lesson in standing up for myself and fighting for what's right. I'm grateful for all the support from my friends, family, and everyone who's been following this saga. Your encouragement kept me going through the darkest times. Now that the court battle is over, I'm looking forward to moving on with my life. I still have a lot of paperwork and legal stuff to sort through, but the hardest part is behind me. I'm planning to use my portion of the assets to invest in my future and maybe even start a scholarship fund in my dad's name. It feels good to think about something positive after all this drama. Thank you all for being there with me through this roller coaster. Your support and advice have been incredible, and knowing I have people rooting for me means the world. Here's to new beginnings and brighter days ahead. Update 5. A few weeks after winning the court case, I was starting to settle back into a sense of normalcy. The stress was finally lifting, and I was focused on the future. Then, out of nowhere, I got a call from my stepmom. I hesitated before picking up, not sure what to expect. Stepmom: "Hi, it's me. Can we talk?" Me: "What do you want?" Stepmom: "I need to apologize for everything that happened. I realize now how wrong I was, and I'm really sorry for all the pain I caused you." Me: "It's a bit late for apologies, don't you think?" Stepmom: "I know, and I deserve that. But I'm in a really tough spot right now. The legal fees and debts have piled up, and I'm struggling. I was wondering if you could help me out financially." Me: "Wait, after everything you did, you're asking me for money?" Stepmom: "I know it sounds terrible, but I'm desperate. I don't have anyone else to turn to." Me: "You put me through so much, lied to me, tried to take everything from me, and now you want me to give you money? No, go figure it out on your own." After hanging up, I was left in a whirlwind of emotions. Part of me felt vindicated, standing up to her after all the manipulation and deceit, but another part of me felt a bit sad and conflicted. It's hard to see someone you once considered family fall so low, even if they brought it upon themselves. I needed to process everything, so I called up my cousin Sarah and my best friend Jake to get their perspectives. Sarah: "Wow, I can't believe she had the nerve to ask you for money after everything she did." Jake: "Seriously, man, you did the right thing. She needs to face the consequences of her actions." Me: "Yeah, I know, but it's still tough. I don't want to see anyone suffer, but I can't just forget everything she did." Jake: "Think about it this way. Helping her now would only enable her behavior. She needs to learn from her mistakes." Sarah: "Exactly. You've been through enough because of her. This is her mess to clean up, not yours." Talking to Sarah and Jake helped me reaffirm my decision. It's important to be compassionate, but it's also important to set boundaries and not let people take advantage of you. My stepmom needs to learn from her mistakes, and maybe this is a part of that lesson. As I reflect on everything that's happened, I realize how much I've grown through this experience. It's been incredibly tough, but it's also been a powerful lesson in standing up for myself, protecting my rights, and not letting others take advantage of me. I remember the early days after my dad passed away, when I naively believed that my stepmom would handle everything fairly. It's been a rude awakening to see how someone can manipulate and deceive, all for their own gain. But through it all, I've learned the importance of fighting for what's right, even when it's hard. The support from my family and friends has been incredible. My cousin Sarah and my best friend Jake have been my rocks through this entire saga. After the call with my stepmom, we all got together to talk it out and make sure I was feeling okay. We decided to have a little celebration, not just for winning the court case, but for getting through this whole ordeal. We ordered some pizza, watched some movies, and just relaxed. It was exactly what I needed to decompress and start moving on. I'm more determined than ever to focus on the positive things in my life. I'm planning to invest my portion of the assets wisely and start that scholarship fund in my dad's name. It's time to turn this difficult chapter into something meaningful and positive. I want to thank all of you for being there with me through this entire saga. Your support, advice, and encouragement have been invaluable. It's been a tough journey, but knowing I had people rooting for me made all the difference. Here's to new beginnings, learning from the past, and building a brighter future. I'll keep you all updated on how things go, but for now, I'm feeling hopeful and ready to move on. Last update. Hey everyone. This will be my last update on this saga. It's been a long journey full of twists, turns, and plenty of drama, but I'm happy to say that I'm finally moving forward with my life. Here's what's happened since my last update and how things are looking now. After my stepmom's unexpected call asking for money, I felt a mix of emotions. While part of me was angry, another part felt a strange sense of closure. I had stood my ground, and that was important. Life began to settle into a new normal after that conversation. One of the first things I did was set up the scholarship fund in my dad's name. It was something I had been planning to do for a while, and it felt really good to finally put it in motion. I worked with a local school to establish the criteria and the application process. We named it the Dad's Name Memorial Scholarship Fund. Knowing that my dad's legacy will help deserving students achieve their dreams is incredibly fulfilling. I remember sitting down with the school's principal to iron out the details. We decided the scholarship would go to students who demonstrated not only academic excellence, but also a passion for community service, values my dad held dearly. We set up a selection committee, and I'm excited to see the first batch of applicants this coming school year. With the portion of the assets I received, I've been investing wisely. I met with a financial advisor who helped me set up a diversified portfolio. This not only secures my future, but also ensures I can continue to support causes and projects that matter to me. My financial advisor, Karen, was fantastic. She explained everything in simple terms, which was great because I was pretty new to the world of investments. We talked about stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, and she helped me create a balanced portfolio. Now I feel more confident about my financial future and have peace of mind knowing I'm making smart decisions. The whole ordeal brought some family members closer to me, while others drifted away. I've focused on strengthening the bonds with those who supported me through everything. My cousin Sarah and I have become closer than ever, and we regularly hang out and support each other. Sarah and I decided to start a tradition of monthly family dinners. We take turns hosting, and it's been a great way to stay connected. At our last dinner, we made a big pot of spaghetti and garlic bread, just like we used to have at family gatherings when we were kids. We spent the evening reminiscing about the good times and planning future get-togethers. A few months ago, I decided to take a trip to clear my head and reflect on everything that happened. I went to a quiet beach town, rented a small cottage, and spent my days walking on the shore, reading and just relaxing. It was exactly what I needed to reset and start fresh. During that trip, I met someone special. We hit it off immediately, and what started as a vacation romance has turned into something more. It's still early days, but I'm optimistic and excited about this new chapter in my life. Her name is Emily, and we met while I was out grabbing coffee at a local cafe. We started chatting about books. Turns out we both love mystery novels. We spent the rest of my trip exploring the town together, visiting local shops, and watching sunsets on the beach. We've kept in touch since, and she's planning to visit me next month. Reflecting on my stepmom's request for money and her apology, I've realized the importance of forgiveness, not for her sake, but for mine. Holding on to anger and resentment only weighs me down. While I won't forget what she did, I've decided to let go of the bitterness. This decision has brought me a lot of peace. Forgiveness doesn't mean I'll ever fully trust her again, but it does mean I can move on without carrying that heavy burden of anger. It's like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders, and I feel lighter and more focused on what truly matters. The support from my family and friends has been incredible. My cousin Sarah and my best friend Jake have been my rocks through this entire saga. After the call with my stepmom, we all got together to talk it out and make sure I was feeling okay. We decided to have a little celebration, not just for winning the court case, but for getting through this whole ordeal. We ordered some pizza, watched some movies, and just relaxed. It was exactly what I needed to decompress and start moving on. I'm more determined than ever to focus on the positive things in my life. I'm planning to invest my portion of the assets wisely and start that scholarship fund in my dad's name. It's time to turn this difficult chapter into something meaningful and positive. One of my goals is to travel more and experience new cultures. I've always wanted to visit Japan, and now that things are settling down, I'm planning a trip there next spring. I've started learning some basic Japanese phrases and researching all the amazing places I want to visit. I want to thank all of you for being there with me through this entire saga. Your support, advice, and encouragement have been invaluable. It's been a tough journey, but knowing I had people rooting for me made all the difference. As I close this chapter, I'm filled with hope and excitement for the future. I've learned so much about resilience, standing up for myself, and the power of forgiveness. This experience has shaped me in ways I never expected, and I'm ready to embrace whatever comes next. This chapter of my life is closing, but a new one is just beginning. I'm ready to embrace it with hope, positivity, and the lessons I've learned along the way. Thank you all for being part of this journey. Here's to new beginnings and brighter days ahead.